everybody, here we are with another episode in the series on how to recognize a cult. And it's really interesting when you type into Google signs cult. So simple, right? It comes up with all these bullet points, and one of them that is going to ring so true for you is fear tactics. So it says on Google, the group uses fear to control members, such as threats of physical harm, shunning, or internal damnation. And this is such an easy thing to recognize within the Jehovah's Witnesses, because I have been scared of being disfellowshipped since I was a kid. You hear you have to get baptized, but I really always thought, I cannot handle being disfellowshipped just for the mere fact of this public shaming that they say your name at the Kingdom Hall, and that you have to sit there and take it and be publicly shamed. And ironically, I actually read the Scarlet Letter in school, and I really enjoyed reading that book. And you can see the hypocrisy with the priest in the book. I'm trying not to spoil the book too much, but the story's probably familiar to you. But I did not even see the overlapping hypocrisy here that we go through, because these three elders at a judicial committee judge you, possibly disfellowship you, and are they any better? What are they doing in secret? I know that the guy that had counseled me on looking like a stripper, which is crazy to say I was 20, in early 20s, barely 20. And he later was removed, and he had a porn problem. How dare you? And it does such a nick on your self-confidence when somebody says that to you, and you're so paranoid already as a J-dub for everything. I think I will say, especially women, with dress and groom, because we're constantly criticized because of curves and, legs and all these things. We're just so paranoid to have a female shape, basically. And I was at a convention with a friend with her two teenage daughters. And the one teenage daughter, she wore a black dress, and in around the waist area, it had a beige insert. And I'm serious, it was skin color, and from far away it looked like it was belly free, which I thought was funny, not criticizing at all. I never once in my whole J-dub life criticized or counseled anybody on dress and groom, because I just really felt like that is not my business. I would just not do that. And I wasn't being critical at all. I thought it was funny, because it's my mind was playing tricks on me, and I thought, oh my God, it looks like you're belly free from far away. And I'm a jokester too, so I said it to the girl. I'm like, oh my God, I thought you were wearing a halter top, belly free. It's so funny. And I felt so bad. The girl was freaking out. And the mom was all like, oh my gosh, you can't say those things to her. She's so paranoid on doing something wrong. But extreme reaction to what I said, extreme. The girls were mortified. And I said, I'm just kidding. There's nothing wrong. It's just, my mind played tricks, and I thought, it looks like it's belly free, and it did not mean any harm. But boy, they were so paranoid. Actually, that was kind of a red flag too. Their reaction seemed so unhealthy, and it's not their fault. It's probably because they're getting criticized all the time and counseled, and you're so paranoid for wearing the wrong thing. The counseling for women was constant. I had a friend who had huge boobs. What can she do? She can't do anything about that. So she ended up wearing blazers to the hall. So she wore a whole business outfit, blazer, and they kept telling her, I'm going to be frank here, that you keep seeing her nipples. And she cried. She's like, I'm wearing a padded bra, I'm wearing a blazer, and I can't help it. And hello, maybe A, that's nature, and B, It's probably cold from all the air conditioning. How dare you make her all freaked out for the way her body is, like the way that God gave her the body, like that she has, like good for her, and instead of like praising her, like, you're looking great, girl, or, I mean, okay, I'm not saying like anybody needs to praise her, but I'm saying like she should be confident, she looked great, she was beautiful. Instead of that, we're tearing people down on the way their body is built. Like, what can she do? It was so messed up. So yes, the fear tactic is you're not obeying Jehovah, you're not, being obedient, so afraid to be ostracized, to be publicly shamed. And then the real fear comes with Armageddon. I mean, I do not think it's healthy for little children to see all these messed up pictures in our publication. I mean, we see like people dying and being swallowed by fire and all this. That is messed up. I remember I always liked listening to dramas on tape as a kid, and I feel like I was all right. But every person is just different, and some are naturally more sensitive to some things than others. And I remember putting on one of the drama tapes for my kid when he was little. Didn't really think anything of it because you're thinking like, oh, it's a Bible story. And I'm in the other room and I hear this tape, and you hear like all the people dying in the drama. It was probably like Noah's Ark or something. They're all like, "Wah!" And he had nightmares that night, and I was totally in at the time. But I remember I posted on Facebook, because it was kind of like a diary, where you post your thoughts and stuff. And I said, thank you, Watchtower Bible Tract Society, for the violence and the drama that gave my kid nightmares last night. Here's like this scriptural, like, our Bible teachers, and they gave my kid nightmares. Like, that's so weird. And the way that's like weird, like it shouldn't happen, like you should feel good after reading the Bible. And I remember like nobody commenting on that post. They're probably all like totally worried about me at that point, because you should never criticize. So I did start like thinking it's kind of weird, like especially when the drama movies came out. I was already kind of thinking this is not healthy for kids. And even if we were at a convention and they would show those, I would walk out with the kids. And walking by all these little kids who were smaller than ours, watching these violent, scary dramas. Like the one that was super scary too was when it's like persecution and all the mafia people or whatever it is, like come in, like the government comes in with their assault rifles and snipers and with masks. That's very scary for a little kid. So I thought, this is weird. Like, why are we showing that to the whole audience? That should be for mature people only. This isn't for little kids. Little kids need to watch Bluey. Like, this is so weird. So, and then I thought, boy, did we ever hear about not touching guns. In Europe, I feel like it was even stricter with guns because, we don't have guns like they do in America. So you could not at the fair play a shooting game with a gun. Could not, would not do it. Very, very hardcore. And so now for these dramas, they have Bethelites who are dressing up as army people, which we weren't allowed to wear camo or any of those patterns. And then they have these like toy guns that they're walking around with. Weird, right? And one of the things too is like, so if you're playing a priest in a drama video and you have like a cross necklace, that felt so weird to me too. We're always hearing you should not have a false idol, blah blah, and yet they print the picture of the false idol in the magazine, yet they have it for props, I guess, so it's okay to have it there. Shouldn't it all be destroyed? Like, double standard, right? If you think about it, there's some, I remember in the Living Forever in Paradise book, that red book, there was a picture with like tarot cards and like a psychic and all that. And I remember looking at it even back in the day thinking, boy, if these things are so demonic, why would you put a picture of them in a book? So you're going to have to throw it all out in real life in your house, but you have a print picture of it in your book? It doesn't make sense, right? Like, why would we print things that are so demonic? So there was always like some little things that would trickle in my mind, like, that's kind of weird, man. It's kind of weird. And one of the really great fear tactics is also a picture drama, like in your mind. What comes to mind is the story of Korah and how he was disobedient, even though Moses wasn't perfect. And then we know that Korah like died violently. And when I was waking up and leaving, my friend, she had that drama in her mind, because to her, she didn't want to be like Korah, and she kept saying that. Like, I don't want to be like Korah. I don't want you to be like Korah. We have to listen to Moses, like, aka the governing body, no matter what. And I would say, but they also had false prophets and false kings that Jehovah did not approve of. And so the prophets sometimes were all alone saying, like, this is wrong. So don't we have to call out what is wrong, just like those true prophets did? And then, you know, I don't know if you guys realize this, but it says, like, in later periods of time, like, the apostasy will come from within, and they will lead many astray or something. So, like, my mom was like, that's right now, that's this governing body. Like, they're awful. They're not from God. So what do you do then, though? Like, because one of the big questions with Jehovah's Witnesses is, where do we go, right? Like, where? An elder said that to me as I was leaving, but where will you go? And I'm like, it's so cemented in the brain that you can't exist without the Jehovah's Witness organization, that they just freak out. Because for me personally, like, other religions are kind of ruined. I have like visited other churches, and you know, the Jehovah's Witnesses kind of ruined like having like trust in other religions. So where do we go? I mean, I'm good. Like, I do think you don't need to listen to other human rulers who don't really know better, but that's just my personal opinion. The beauty of this is, when you leave, you get to decide what you want to believe in. Like, no one is controlling your belief. You get to decide. And this fear tactic of eternal damnation is so strong in some people. I know that some people, even while they were Jehovah's Witnesses, were so afraid of Armageddon. Luckily, that wasn't me. I wasn't really worried about it, and I wasn't really worried about like worldly people dying in Armageddon. To me, it always seemed like God is love, and if God is love, he's not gonna just like kill all these people, right? Except I guess the Jehovah's Witnesses kind of do believe that. Did you also do that? Did you make like your own kind of truth? Because there's definitely some things that I tweaked myself, and I felt like, well, they just don't understand that part yet, or, you know, the light will shine brighter on that part, and I just left that be. So me personally, I wasn't afraid of eternal damnation, but they definitely try to do that. And when you watch other cult documentaries, you see how strong that is with others too. Like, if you watch Waco, that was a really good one, with David Koresh. The fear of the outside world, the fear of, you know, they felt like Armageddon was here when the government attacked. And of course, like, the government doesn't understand cults, so they mishandled that whole situation because they're not understanding how a cult works. I hope nowadays that we have so much more wisdom, and that we would enlist like Yanya Lalich and Steve Hassan to be on the scene and like kind of guide like all these police officers and stuff how to deal with the cult. Because for the people in the Branch Davidians, they're thinking Armageddon is now here, and it's okay for us to die. Like, if the government wants to kill us, we will die faithfully. Yes, the Jehovah's Witnesses, totally the same thing. When they refuse a blood transfusion for them or their children, they totally believe it's okay if we die right now, we die faithfully, but my eternal destruction is saved. Like, they would rather die now and then realize I already made it to paradise. Like, that was the same thinking with Waco. I'm okay to die right now because I'll be in paradise. I'll be in heaven. And that is so scary, to give up your life right now so that you don't have to face eternal destruction. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, and if you have to add anything about this bullet point, would love to hear it. Or your experiences are always really interesting to hear too. So please share. I'm all ears, and we'll talk about the next bullet point tomorrow. Bye.
Will figuratively see him. They will see Jesus coming as an executioner. They will realize that what's coming upon them, the destruction, is not just the result of some natural disaster. They will realize that this is what was prophesied by Jehovah. In verse 12, it says there, and this will be what will prove to be the scourge with which Jehovah will scourge all the peoples that will actually do military service against Jerusalem. But now in the prophecy, this refers to heavenly Jerusalem, where we find the Messianic kingdom. And it says, and that's scary, there will be a rotting away of one's flesh while one is standing upon one's feet, and one's very eyes will rot away in their sockets, and one's very tongue will rot away in one's mouth. Possibly having a figurative fulfillment, but also very possibly having a literal fulfillment. And Jehovah, after that, it will be a time for liberation for God's people. Not only the destruction of enemies, but liberation and relief in many ways. But there will also be a lot of work to do, because we've mentioned that in Armageddon, billions of people will die, and they have to be buried. The Bible indicates in the prophecy that there will be groups of people, of brothers and sisters, that will for a long time do nothing else than just bury the dead.